Hello and welcome to the Week 9 preview show, Cowboys Takeover podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Jason Kent. With me, as always, the illustrious, the luminous Mr. Aaron James. Aaron, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, Jason, I'm doing good, man. Are you feeling better?
I do feel good. Finally, dude, I'm telling you, it was like I was sick for it was like 3, 4 weeks. It was like one of those just really bad, like kept going. I remember because I got it like it was UFC. It was like not the one at the end of October, but the one at the beginning of October. I text my buddy. I was like, "Yo, I'm running like 100 fever. Got the
Mhm.
coughs, and it just sat with me for like weeks." And he was messaging me later like, "Yo, whatever you had, I got it." It's just so it's one of those things. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's fall, the weather changed, but it just wasn't fun. But it's better now, so I'm good. It's nice. Um, we're here to preview a big matchup. A matchup that early in the season looked like it was going to be a battle of some pretty big teams. Dallas is kind of on the slide, and Atlanta's playing some pretty good football right now. Um, and when you've seen highlights and kind of just what you've watched throughout the season on Atlanta, what has impressed you with that team that you've seen so far this season?
Well, it did take a while, kind of, for Kirk Cousins to get into his jive and chemistry to build up with the team. I was trying to look at what I would figure maybe their best win of the season is so far probably against the Eagles in that comeback, thanks to Saquon dropping the ball. So they started 1-2 in the season. They lost by 20 points in Seattle. They did beat Tampa Bay twice. They have beaten them twice, but last week, the Bucks were without their two best wide receivers, Godwin and Evans.
Yeah, but to have those two wins already over a division rival and the team that everybody pretty much thought was going to be, I think they won the division last year when Atlanta got Kirk Cousins, which was that big offseason signing. They
Mhm.
thought that would be the matchup. So to have those two wins at this point, holds that tiebreaker at the end of the season, and they already have beaten the Saints. So they're and they've beaten the Panthers, so they're 4-0 in their division right now. Um, they're 5-3 on the season. Like you said, they started 1-2, yeah, 1-2. They lost to the Steelers early when they were hot. Um, and there was a close game against the Chiefs. It was a game. Both of those games were very winnable games. And then they lost 2 weeks ago to the Seahawks. Really got annihilated. It was one of those games where you're like, oh man, the Seahawks are on the come up and Atlanta's really falling back, but then Atlanta came back last week. But when I look at this Atlanta team, man, they're a scary team. They have, this was one of those teams last year. You're like, man, if Atlanta could get the quarterback, they could be a dangerous team. You saw they went through different quarterbacks. They drafted quarterbacks, Ritter, kind of recycle a lot of them. So when Cousins came available, they hopped at that and they paid him a lot of money, which has really worked this year. Because they have so many weapons. So when you really look at Atlanta, um, you don't know who they're going to. They really distribute the ball very well. They have four different players over 40 targets, two players over 50 targets, with that being Darnell Mooney and Drake London. Drake London's leading the way. He's a very big receiver, strong receiver. Darnell Mooney is very good as well. And then they have that ultra talented um, Kyle Pitts at tight end, and then Ray McLeod with 42, and Kyle Pitts with both 42, and then Bijan Robinson getting 35 targets. So they're an offense that very much distributes the ball. They're not like Dallas, and I think that's one of the things that plays to their strengths. It's not they can't focus on anyone, and then when you just look at their run game as well, it's Bijan is definitely the lead back there. But Tyler Algier, man, still has 68 carries, has averaging 5.2 yards a carry. Um, so it's one of those things, and Bijan is averaging over 4 points. There's averaging 4.7. So offensively, man, this is a very, very dangerous team. Um, how do you think, really, when the keys to victory, when you look at that, what do you think leads the way. Because to me, I believe if you're Atlanta, you go back and watch that Detroit game tape. Because to me, they're very, they aren't, I don't think they're as talented as Detroit offensively, but they have the two running backs. They have a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're going to see a lot of. I think it's going to be very similar to that Atlanta or that Detroit game where you're going to see a lot of the running backs and then a lot of play action to really get Dallas biting in.
Yeah, they have a lot of room for error, just because their roster is really young and talented on both sides of the ball. Their second leading tackler on defense is their safety Jesse Bates, with 50 total tackles. And that dude, I didn't know this, and I was surprised when I saw it. He has a 97 overall in Madden,
That kid's been a stud in Madden for a while.
and
He's legit. A
yeah.
lot of Cincinnati Bengals because he was big in Cincinnati and he left there. They were not happy because he was a stud.
So the fact that he has 50 total tackles, second on the team, doesn't really tell me that they have a poor defense per se. It's just more that this guy's all over the field. So
Yeah.
With Dak laying up some ducks as of late, I'm a little bit nervous about that, on the defensive side of things. But like I said, they have a lot of room for error. Kirk Cousins seems to be, like you said, he distributes the ball. Their two top wide receivers are already at or over 500 yards. So they're 1,000-yard receivers. And Bijan, it's going to be, I think, hopefully, if I'm Zimmer, I try to match Overshown with Bijan as much as possible.
See, I was thinking about him more on Pitts, man, because Pitts he's dangerous. Early in the season, he wasn't. I was really mad because I was like with Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to have a big year. Early in the season, he didn't do much, but he's last few weeks he's really been picking up. So that's why I thought maybe Overshown because he's athletic, he's fast. I think he's the type of dude you could keep on Pitts because I think the safeties. I don't know if they're as athletic and really able to keep up with him. Where Overshown seems to be able to play, do that type of thing. So I actually want him on Pitts, man.
I wouldn't mind Jordan Lewis on Pitts. But so, they get a lot of their big plays, and as Kirk Cousins always has in his career with the play action. And if, I don't see any reason why Bijan wouldn't be able to do his thing. He's probably, going to average 4 to 4.5 yards when it's all said and done, per carry on the rushing side. So, I mean, look, it's just really, don't beat yourself. Cowboys really haven't won the turnover ratio, turnover battle. I don't think in any of our games, the pass rush, I've mentioned before how much time Purdy had. I think Cousins is gonna have plenty of time. He's just got to make the right decisions, as he has in many of his games. And I think they're pretty confident and coming into this game. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're 2.5 points favored by Vegas last I saw, if I remember correctly.
That, to me, that's actually a lot smaller than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
But yeah, that's when you look at it offensively, it's a very bad matchup for Dallas against their defense. You got just two guys that can run the ball very well. Bijan's a dude that you can throw it out of the backfield. You need somebody to cover, like you said. You want Overshown on him, but this shows you the talent that Bijan is. And it stings because I know there was talks about Bland. He still hasn't, he missed Wednesday. You don't know where Diggs is. Micah questionable, but doesn't sound like he's going to be back. Yeah, so it could turn into a very long day. So if you're Falcons, to me, you just control that ball. You have to just really pound the rock. I think that's the key. Kind of limit the amount because Kirk Cousins has done very well this season. He has 10 touchdowns and I believe 4 interceptions. 14 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, or 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But he's been very good. Hasn't really turned the ball over a ton this season. 14 and 7. Sacked 15 times. but he's in the top in the league in passing. But that's because they just have those players. So it could be long if Dallas is missing those guys. It really, man, it's. I feel like the Falcons. There's so many ways they can win this game this week. Just when you look at it, it's very upsetting. The one good thing when you look at it, their defense is definitely middle of the pack. So that's why I think they want to control that ball. Don't let your defense out. Keep your defense fresh. This is a team that is last in the NFL with 6 sacks. So I think that's where so you don't want to let them on the field more than they need to be. Because they've shown they do give up points and they can get beat pretty bad. So it's controlling the clock, and just putting up as many points as you can if you're the Falcons, because you kind of know what you're heading into. You know what you need to do. I expect both of those running back. Do you think it's close to what it was last week for Dallas giving up rushing yards? Because I think we both said it wouldn't be close to that. Do you think they give up over 150?
No. I just feel like they're going to be more prepared. The guys, a lot of the guys coming back and getting more reps. I think that Zimmer's going to have these guys better prepared, and we were gashed a couple times last go around with the 49ers. So I think we're gonna do better on the overall run. I mean, I think I think Bijan will probably get his 100, and then Algier hopefully we can keep him under 50, something like that.
I agree. My apologies. No, I don't. Man, I think it's gonna be a long day. I think it's gonna be a real long day. I think you're gonna see a lot of those two guys. I think it's going to be tough. But let's try to let's look at the Dallas side of things. We look at the keys for Falcons. Really, game plan: keep your offense on the field, run that ball. If you're Dallas, it's knowing they don't sack. They don't get their leading sack. Their leading sack guy is 1.5 sacks. They have a couple guys with the 1.5 sacks. They have 6 sacks total in the season. So this is a game if you're Dallas, and if this is one you can get Tyler Guyton. Throw a lot. This could build his confidence. And that could be huge. But I think you have to get the quick plays, because when I was looking through it, my apologies. When I'm looking through everything, Dak and Kirk are right there. When you look at the receivers, yes, Lamb is head and shoulders. Probably, I think definitely head and shoulders above anybody they have. But then you look at it, it's London, it's Mooney, it's Pitts. Then you have to go a while to find Tolbert, and then right next you have McLeod and you have Bijan. So it's just so many weapons. So if you're Dallas, I think you have to control the ball as well. I think you let Dak do his thing. You don't go out and try to run. Running's not your game. You've shown it, but let Dak go out. You got to hit other people as well this week. You can't just focus on CD, but I think it's trying to control that ball. If you have to run a lot of those little backfield stuff, maybe get Turpin involved a lot, the short pass game, keep your defense off the field. That way they can be fresh, because they're banged up and it's going to take a lot. I think the key is Dallas. Again, on the other side, it's really controlling the ball as well, because Atlanta's got the weapons to score quick. If you're Dallas, your defense is hurting right now. You kind of hope make Kirk have to go down and score. If I think it's taking away the run game on the other side, if you're Dallas, make Kirk have to beat you. Understand, because Dallas, your run defense has been atrocious. They have 2 guys that can really bang and really go, and it's thunder lightning type of guys. It's really tough, but you have to take away one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
You have to focus, and then to me, it's let Kirk beat you. I know they have the weapons too, but Kirk has shown that it's going to be the main 1:00 game. It's not a prime time game, but it's still the main 1:00 game. He's shown in big games, which I don't really think it's a super big game, but he's shown the ability. He makes mistakes. So I think if you're Dallas defensively, get to the ball, shut down the run game. Don't let Atlanta get going that way. Make Kirk have to throw and beat you. And if you're on the offensive side, I think it's getting the ball out of Dak's hands quick, sustaining long drives. You can't have a lot of 3-and-outs this week. A lot of time you see Dallas where they just have too many 3-and-outs. That can't fly, especially when you have nobody on defense right now. When you could be missing a lot of your defense. You have to keep your defense off the field. Don't let those, you put together those long sustained drives, get the ball out of Dak's hand quick. I think that Turpin and CD should be the main two dudes. Tolbert's starting to build his way up. So I think that's, if you're Dallas, you have to look at that way. I don't think it's the run game. I think it's the short passing game.
I think we will still see another game like we did with the Steelers where Dowdle has some angry runs, is what I'll call it. So, he got sick, mysteriously sick in San Francisco. So hopefully he's able to bounce back. And, we saw really nothing meaningful from Dalvin Cook, but, he'll have another probably 5 carries, probably 5 to 7 carries to try to show something. And I'm going to go back and forth here with offense and defense, but our red zone defense, I think, is second to last, if I'm not mistaken, in the league, which, is terrible and embarrassing. So in this game, we're going to have to force, a couple field goals, at least try to get to fight our way to 50% red zone defense, because we know they're going to move the ball. And when it's a bend don't break type of thing. Now, we did it the first half with the 49ers, and then we got critical stops in the fourth quarter. Again, we have shown more of we've shown up a little bit more on the away games compared to the home games. You got indoor perfect conditions for us, so I think that's going to go a long way for our offense, and B, letting Brandon Aubrey, hit his 60-yard field goals. I think he's probably going to have at least one 60-plus yard field goal I'm calling for with our boy. Since we're not going to win, our D-line, 1.5 sacks at best. We're going to have to blitz a lot. So I do see Zimmer dialing up some blitzes against Cousins, and hopefully, he comes to make some mistakes around that. Try to force, some 3rd and longs, but I think that's going to be a challenge really all game. And then in addition to, and I guess I should say, the D line doesn't really scare me with the Falcons, right? They have Matthew Judon, I think, is their best edge rusher, and then it's a decent size drop off outside of that. So you expect Dak. Our offense is quite well from a pass protection standpoint. He's going to have his time, but at the same time, AJ. Is it Terrell on the defensive side that's going to be likely on CD? He's a decent cornerback, and if they double team him, it's going to be the Turpin or the Tolbert, or I expect Fergie probably to have 10 targets in this game, and then you'll kind of see how things shake out. I think if you're Dallas, you want it a low scoring game. If it has to be a shoot fest in the first half, I think we're in real trouble.
I think if it turns into a shoot fest at any point, we're in real trouble. I know Dak's going to have time, but I just don't trust Dak to get it done the way. Just what he's shown this far. In the big moments, I know he can put up the points, and I know he's come back in some games and done stuff, but it turns into a shootout, which, if you're Dallas, that's not what you want. It's not good. It can't be good.
Oh, yeah. So, geez, it's
what did Madden say last week? All three of us, we had a special guy, Big Z, Big Zach. He had on all of us pick San Fran. Madden said, "Hey, Dallas is going to whoop on them." Madden had it like 36-10. And not even close. This week against Atlanta, what's Madden saying before we get into our predictions?
Yeah, so Madden simulation has the Falcons winning 24-17.
I think that's a little bit lower scoring than I think. I don't see how they don't score more than like, and I know 24 is a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
I see a big week from Atlanta. It's tough. I think both quarterbacks have over 300 passing yards.
Wow.
That's my prediction. That's my bold prediction.
Okay. Jeez.
It's going to be a fest, bro. It's going to be a point fest. It's going to be one of those games that people that complain, back in the early 2000s, you didn't get offense. This is, one of those games you're going to get a lot of offense. It's probably going to end up being like 6-3 now. But, I think both quarterbacks throw for over 300 yards. I think Dak, it's going to be more in a comeback scenario where he needs to. I think Kirk's just going to be able to. I think that's how it's going to look. Wrapping this up, putting in a little pretty bow on it. Time for our predictions. I have it 37-31 Atlanta. But I think it's one of those, another one of those games where Atlanta really is taking over and Dak makes it look pretty at the end.
Wow. I'm looking at, as talented as Atlanta is, I think, and as well as they're sitting in their division. And I have watched a couple of their games, even outside of that Philadelphia game. And I think many would tell you, even outside of their record, is they've underperformed this year in comparison to what was the expectations. Really, they were supposed to be a quarterback away from really making a big jump. Now, with that being said, I think that the Cowboys come in and they play nearly a perfect game to come out. They scratch and claw, and they get an ugly win here.
That's the Aaron I know and love
in Atlanta.
What we have for the final? Is it another automatic booming one for the win? Is that what we're doing?
I got Cowboys 27-24.
Okay, I'll take it. That's 2 field goals. If we can get a 60-yarder in there, it'd be beautiful. Listen, if that, I don't see it. It's another one of those games where, Pittsburgh, I was wrong. Last week, I just couldn't see how they win. This week, I just don't see it as well. Atlanta is just too talented offensively. If it is it's going to be, to me, it's the same way they have to do it in Pittsburgh. You have to, I think, you really have to shut down Atlanta's run game, which is weird because Kirk has the third most passing yards in the NFL. But to me, I'd much rather have to worry about let Kirk beat me, shut down the running back, don't let them run on me. Let's make Kirk make a mistake. I think that's the best key to victory if you're Dallas, but I just don't see it happen. I don't, and it stinks. This is not the way I saw the season going. But listen, these next 2 weeks could be very crucial. They have Atlanta this week. Next week is Philly. So coming out with a win this week is going to be very big. Going in next week. If you go into next week and losing another one, you're not sitting pretty. So I do think this one's must win. You can't lose this one. I just don't see it. I'm not as positive as my co-host over there, but I'm usually not as positive as him. He's always a little more positive than I am.
Yeah, if we lose this game, it's gonna be it's gonna be tough sledding the rest of the way. We're gonna have to essentially sweep out and go undefeated within our division, which is gonna be a stretch, and we're gonna have to see Micah do things that he's gonna have to dominate in a way we really haven't seen him dominate in probably 18 games when he comes back.
If you lose this, so you lose this one. That's 5 out of your last 7. The 2 wins, you barely beat the Giants. You squeaked by Pittsburgh. And in those losses, you lost 44-19. You really got blown out by the Ravens, even though it was a 3-point game. San Fran probably shouldn't have been as close. The Lions beat you down. Percentage, if you had to guess percentage, you lose this game in pretty spectacular fashion. Does McCarthy come back for Philly? Is he there against Philly, or could you see that if he loses this one, he's probably gone before the end of the season? Or do you think at this point they just let him ride it out and fire him?
Yeah, I really, he'd have to go on we'd have to lose the rest of the games through into December for him to be fired before end of season. I
Okay.
don't see, and it's really more so of a Jerry Jones thing than
Listen, can I tell you something? You have Atlanta, you have Philly, you have the Texans, you have the Commanders, you have the Giants on Thanksgiving. So, okay, they probably won't lose out, but it's very close. They could go 1-4. When you're looking at that, I saw the Giants were 11-28. Okay, you could go one. You could realistically lose every game before that Thanksgiving game. If you look at it, I think we won't be favored in any of them. And it's very possible you could very well go 1-4 before Thanksgiving or by December. And to me, if you lose the next 4, that's 6 in a row. I think Jerry goes before. You got to get rid of him at some point in there, but Jerry's hasn't made the move yet, and I've been calling for it for years.
We should be at least trying to cash in on our on Trey Lance and see what we can get for him. He's not going to be, on our team next year.
Other side.
We've already signed Dak for 4 more years.
If you lose this week, I don't know when the trade deadline's coming up. I know it's coming up soon.
Yeah.
Do you trade Micah?
I'm open to it.
Now, here's the question. If you have to trade someone, if you're looking, I think there's 2 guys, if you're Dallas, that you can really dangle out there. One being Micah and the other being Diggs. If you're would you trade both of them, or would you, if you're going to one, which is the one you're trading?
I'm trading Micah. If I'm trading anybody, and I'm probably sending them to the AFC if I can.
But I don't care what I send them. Honestly, I'm sending, if I'm Dallas and I'm trading Micah, you're going to whoever gives me the most in return. If Philly comes up to me and says, here's 3 first rounds, here you go. I don't care. I want the most in return. They've already shown to make moves with Philly when they traded back with Philly so Philly could get Devontae when Dallas took Micah. So they've already shown. So why not? Like, to me, I don't care where he goes. I still would rather trade because Micah's the guy I never wanted to get rid of. I would honestly get rid of both. If you're Dallas, I don't know if you could really afford to pay Micah at this point. Maybe you try to package Diggs. Maybe you get rid of. I would trade both him and Diggs, and try to get draft picks back for him and really restock, because you need to get players now that you have CeeDee Lamb and Dak really paid. You need to start getting younger again. Bland, if he can come back healthy, if you can retool with some picks, we're trading both. I think at this point, if you lose this week, I think that's got to be a real discussion.
I think that with that mindset, that's too much of a trust the process strategy. And we've been trying to win with much younger guys the past 3 years. To me, it's like, well, if you're going to get draft capital, it's because we're going to try to get some veterans in here to piece a solid all-in year together, because we only have a franchise quarterback for 3 more years.
Yeah. I'm going to give you, let me let you know the secret here, Aaron. We don't have a franchise quarterback, but I think if I'm being realistic, I say blow it up. I would never pay Dak, but that's just me, and trust the process. But I think they have to do something. You got to do something. You got to shake it up. But I do think one of those 2 guys, I do think it's a realistic possibility that Dallas could trade Micah before the end of the season. Because you're going to have to, I don't know if you're going to pay him. You don't want to tag him. I know I think you get something if he leaves. If you tag him, you maybe can. I think you get 2 firsts or something like that if somebody signs him one of those tags. But if I'm Dallas, I'm looking now. I'm making phone calls because especially if you lose this week to Atlanta, you have to start thinking about. And I don't think it's a terrible idea. You could get a couple firsts for him. I think it's a smart move. And let him hit free agency afterwards. Maybe you can bring him back. But that's it for this week. Not a lot of positive. Well, there's positivity from Mr. Aaron James. Aaron believes. Aaron has not lost faith yet. He thinks we squeak one out this week. Listen, I hope so. It's tough. I think it has to be, like you said, has to be a near flawless game. That's the only way. It's the only way possible. But thank you, each and every one of you, for checking us out again this week. Really appreciate you, each and everyone that follows it pregame, postgame. Just thoroughly enjoy it. We love talking football. We're watching. We're in the trenches with everyone. It is tough to watch this. This season's been a little bit more tough, especially when we had some predictions on here going 14-3 and 13-4. There were some high expectations, so it's really a kick in the gut. But I think if you want to get it started the week before Philly week, you got to go into Philly playing well. So if they play a near perfect game, that can really change some attitudes going in to the big matchup next week against your division rival in a big battle. So let's get things turned around this week against Atlanta. Let's get a win in Atlanta. We're on the road. Like Aaron said, this might be the year the road wins. So let's put together a big one in Atlanta. Let's get a victory. I don't see it, but Mr. Aaron James does. Thank each and every one of you. For Jason Kent, that's Mr. Aaron James. Appreciate you all. Love you all. Check us out if you're on the Ring the Bell Network, if you're on the Cowboys Takeover Podcast Network, if you're on the Facebook, however you guys are watching us, give us a like, give us a subscribe, so that way you get those notifications when we do go live on our shows. Appreciate you all. Love you all. Week 9. Let's go Cowboys. Let's beat Atlanta. Let's go. Go Cowboys.